Welcome back to What the Fertility Season 4. This morning we have Kyla on with us to discuss her infertility journey, which includes low sperm count and poor quality embryos. Kyla is state captain of Resolve, mom of 2 living children, and has been through multiple rounds of IUI and IVF. Welcome. We are so thankful that you are here today and excited to hear all of the details of your infertility experience.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to just share my story and just kind of share how everyday people can become involved in the infertility world, just advocating for each other.
Yeah, because so many of our listeners, myself included, are aware of Resolve. We watch all of the social media stuff, all that they do in the community, the events they put together. So this is really exciting to have you on to talk about that and to that. So for you, where did this all start? Was this something that you knew you were going to experience, or when you met your partner, were you like, okay, like let's try to have a family, and then you experience infertility?
Yeah, so I was that typical girl who always wanted to have babies, just assumed it would just happen. We're sex ed class, right? You're told don't do it, you'll get pregnant. Um, and so I just never thought infertility was a thing that would happen to me. And then I'm a teacher, and a couple of the teachers that I worked with were going through IUI. And that was kind of like my first introduction to that world. And I walked through that journey with her of her going through, she had cysts, multiple cysts she had to get drained, and through that experience with her. And so my husband and I ended up getting married in 2019, right before COVID, literally November 2019.
Oh, right
And
before. Yeah, we were a 2019 marriage too, but
yeah,
that was like March. So you really cut it close.
I know. My husband wanted a spring wedding, and I'm like, aren't you glad we didn't?
Yes, but seriously, such a difference.
I know. So we got married in November, and I had gotten off birth control like 2 months before, just because, that's what everybody said to do. So, we wanted a honeymoon baby, right? And so we ended up not, we didn't get pregnant. And it just so happened that I was very good about going to my yearly physicals. I
Which
don't know if
is
it was,
so rare. Like who, like, you know what I mean?
I know, I have no idea. I was very good about it. Again, one of those things where it's just like, you're just supposed to do it. And I'm a rule follower. So I did it.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was like, 6, 7 months after we got married. And they asked me, since my status had changed from single to married, if we were trying to have kids, that kind of thing. I said, yeah. And I was 28. So nothing super red flaggy. But he asked me if I wanted to go on Clomid. And
Oh,
I was like,
wow. Why?
"Okay."
Like,
Because
what?
we had been trying 6, 7 months. I had been off birth control. I'd been on birth
Yeah.
control since I was like 14, 15. Um,
Okay.
just truly, I mean, I didn't have super bad periods. I just don't like a
Yeah.
period.
And was this a like a family doc or was this your GYN?
And just GY.
Okay. Okay.
So maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I don't know. My
Good.
husband was 30. Like again, no real reason, but I was
Yeah.
like, me, I'm impatient. And I was like, yeah,
I was
sounds
like just about
good.
to, yeah, I was about to say like efficiency. That was the reason of like time efficiency. Let's start our family for sure.
100%. And I don't know if COVID had anything to do. I don't know. Anyway, went on Clomid. Um, did that for 2 months, and I got the Clomid crazies like everybody else, I feel like. Um, Legitimately wanted to murder my husband for
I've
no
heard
reason.
so what are the symptoms like that you experience? Because I have heard of this.
I just was so angry at everything. And I mean, it's COVID, so we're all in close quarters. We're not going anywhere. I have a brother who at the time was 12, so big age gap.
Yeah.
And so he spent a lot of time with us because my mom was working and I was teaching, so I could help with COVID school.
Yeah.
And so, and we also sold our house, so we were in my mom's husband's rental house. Like it was just a lot going
A
on.
lot of
And so I think that,
change.
yes, I think that contributed to how crazy I was.
And so Clomid, for people that like are listening, maybe this is their first ever like podcast about fertility. It okay, you have to correct me, but does it just help you ovulate? Does it almost like guarantee extra egg production and
Yes.
ovulation?
Yes,
Okay.
it helps you to ovulate more regularly.
Okay.
Because they also told us to that we didn't have to like test our like when we ovulated, which I was like, oh, I guess we should do that. Because it was
Yeah.
so early in our journey. So anyway, after 2 months of the Clomid crazies, I called my doctor and was like, look, I don't think this is for me. And he said, well, let's try letrozole. So I said, okay, let's do letrozole. And so at that point, we had been trying like almost a year, but not really quite. And at that point, we did letrozole much better. Didn't make me crazy. The only side effect I do remember being was that I was just really hungry.
Yeah, and it does the same thing as Clomid. It's just different
Yep,
medication.
yep, just
Okay.
a different brand. So we did that, and then we did the whole 6 months with that. I'm sorry, 3 months, 3 months. So it was 6 months total.
Right.
And so at that point, we had been trying a year. I didn't get pregnant. And so the doctors said, well, let's get you all in for testing. Again, I'm super lucky that my doctor was so proactive in it.
Right.
And so we ended up going in for my husband got tested and I got tested, and he came back with low motility and low mobility.
Okay.
So it was low sperm and not fast moving sperm.
Okay.
There was nothing quote unquote wrong with me. Like I had enough eggs, whatever. Um, but kind of fast forwarding through that, we learned throughout the journey that um, although like there was nothing wrong, our embryos just didn't survive. So they wouldn't make it past that blastocyst stage.
So
Um, I
interesting.
know. So through our retrievals, that's kind of what we figured out.
When you guys got that, I don't know, diagnosis or news, was it like, how was that to process?
It actually made me feel better. Um,
Because it was, yeah, because you had an answer, or because you were like, okay, this is nothing that I can control.
Kind of both. Because I didn't want it to feel, I didn't want my husband to feel like it was his fault
Right.
because it wasn't. And not that infertility is anybody's fault ever.
Right.
But it wasn't his fault. And so it was a combination of both of us. Uh,
Exactly. That's what I
for,
was thinking. It's like,
yeah.
yeah.
And it also just like it, I guess, yeah, it gave a reason. It gave a
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
and that we both contributed to it. So we did all of that, and they said, well, IUIs would be our best course of action. So we did one IUI, and so through before we started the IUIs, I started to kind of just get kind of anxious. But again, this is COVID. Everybody is feeling different, getting all these different feels. And so the doctor ended up asking if I wanted to go on a low dose of Zoloft through all of this. And so I tried, it was like a very low dose, 25 milligrams. And it did help a little bit. But then, so I'm on it. We go through this first IUI, and I end up having a panic attack, like a legitimate panic attack on the table. Like,
Okay, so
let
you
up.
like you wrote that in your Q&A or whatever, and I wanted to
Yeah.
like touch on that. So like you were like about to do it and you were like, "Oh my God, I can't."
No, it was in there. Like, like she had the metal clamps, for lack of the visual, she
Yeah.
had the clamps in there. And I just started to, when I get a panic attack, I just keep breathing in and I can't breathe out. And so I just kept breathing in, and she was like, Kyla, I need you to calm down. Like, we have to do this. Like, the sperm is ready.
Yeah.
We're
And you've already
ready.
spent all this money and it's all timed and
Yes. Yes. And I will never forget her name was Kathy, and she was the sweetest old woman in just the cutest little, I'm pretty sure it was Frozen Scrubs. Like she was
yeah.
so cute. And she was just, calm down, calm down. She turned the music up a little bit, and I'm just over there, literally just breathing in, thinking I'm gonna die.
Was your husband allowed to go with you since it was
No,
COVID? Okay, so you were by yourself.
absolutely. And I think that probably contributed it, 'cause my husband and I are very close. I mean, we were friends for 10 years before we got married. So um, she like inserts it, and I instantly, it bless Kathy's heart, I instantly feel it just coming out. Like, this is this is a pointless round. And she's like, no, 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 it's not coming out. You're doing great. Because I'm screaming like, it's coming out, it's coming out.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, 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 you're doing great. You're doing great. It's in there. And I'll never really truly know if it was in there or if it was coming out, but Kathy reassured me it was in, but
Okay, wait. So I feel like so adept to all things infertility, but IUI is the one thing we never did. And so
yeah.
this is all so new to me. And I think because you did multiple rounds as you get into your story, we can talk about it then, but like, did that experience feel different than like maybe your second IUI? Like, was it like a different?
Yes. So they ended up giving me Valium for the next one.
They were like, this girl, we got to get prepared.
Yeah, she's crazy. We need to go ahead and do that. And so the Valium helped actually a lot. And then they also recommended I bring my own music.
Yeah.
So fun fact, I'm a super big Eminem fan.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so we listened to Eminem's greatest hits while we hoped to get pregnant.
Yeah.
So we went through 3 IUIs in total. And then we had a meeting with our fertility doctor. And she said, at this point, we can keep trying IUIs, but with the percentages, it's like 10 people come in and 2 people walk out pregnant, whatever. Like you're down to, you can keep doing this, but it's not going to happen.
And how were you guys like emotionally at that point? I mean, because you're now almost a year and a half
Yeah.
into trying. Like that has to be so difficult. I mean, there's so many things. Number one, the every time you get a negative test, especially after treatment, but then like having this decision of like moving to the next step that most people that start with IUI never ever think that they're gonna have to move into.
Yeah, truly didn't. Because my good friend who was my introduction to this world, she got pregnant on her first IUI. And so
Wow.
I remember going into that first IUI just being like, I'm gonna get pregnant. And maybe that's why I had a panic attack. I don't know.
Right.
And so yeah, it was a very weird experience.
I
Um,
bet. And IUI, I mean, people that are listening, I mean, I think it's great. That's where most people start. But to your point, I think like I think if I'm saying this right, basically, if you were fertile, IUI is the same chance of just trying naturally for like a fertile couple, quote unquote. So it's like a what, little less than 20% chance that it'll work
yeah,
each
yeah.
time.
Because
Which
you're
like when you think about it, it's not a lot.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
I think they say like they give your body the most opportune experience, the opportune setting.
But
Uh,
for you guys, it would make sense at the time, especially just because of his sperm results. It's like, okay, we can make sure that we're getting it there at the exact time and helping it as much as we can.
exactly, and get it into where it needs to be.
Right.
So at that point, we were actually moving to Charlotte. And so we closed on our house in August. And so we decided, like, let's just take a breather through all of this. Very typical men. Um, he was like, so when they first introduced IVF to us, he was like, well, maybe we should just try to get pregnant.
And
And
you're
I
like,
was
what
like,
do you think we've been doing?
well, what have we been doing? Like, I'm very confused here. But that's and in his mind, it was just like I think, and talking to him through it, he's like, I guess I just thought that like once you try, it just happens. And so I think we
Yeah.
were both kind of working through that experience of like, okay, everything we were taught kind of wasn't true, but we're having to do this a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I know with my husband too, it was very like when IVF got brought up, he was just like, we don't need IVF. Why would we do IVF? And it was just such like this like concept of like, I don't understand why we're even talking about it.
100%. So we decided, my husband is worked for Atrium at the time, and so we that is the hospital here.
Yeah.
And so we were very grateful that we decided to move to his insurance because he had better insurance at the time. So we met with our doctor. She went ahead, we went through IVF. We did one retrieval that time in, oh gosh, that was probably October, November
2020.
one,
Okay.
20. Yeah, 2020.
Okay.
So we did a retrieval. We ended up getting, oh gosh, how many did we get?
I know it's crazy that it's 2025. Like, and I just think and we'll get to it, but like, especially with like you being a part of Resolve, me being on the podcast, like 5 years later, and it's still so like fresh.
Yes, it is. Um, so we went through, we got, my heart says like 18, 17, 18. Like I remember it being in the high,
Eggs,
yes.
that's a lot. Yeah.
Yes, so I remember it being in the high teens. And so we walked out of that retrieval being like, oh my gosh, we're gonna, have so many embryos and they're gonna be so wonderful. And then, as it goes through these stages of making it through, getting those phone calls of getting through day one, day two.
Yeah.
So we ended up with that one only getting two embryos, which was such a devastating like crush.
Do you remember, and maybe you don't, was there like, so they say like the attrition process to your point is like you get the eggs and then there is supposed to be like this decrease in percentage that is normal.
For
For
sure.
you guys, was there any point where like it was like 18 to 4 or was it pretty gradual and then all of a sudden you had two?
No, it was, I remember we had like 17, 18, and then we had like 10 or 11. Like we had a
Yeah.
good rate. And then all of a sudden, when we get to that, how many actually made it to the blastocyst stage? We had two.
And I think you alluded to that earlier, like they just stopped
Yeah.
growing.
Yep. And it was frustrating. And of those two, one was an AB embryo. So the inner mast cell was A, and the outer mast that attaches to you was a B. And then the other one was a CC. And so if you look at like any chart, the CC should have really been discarded. But they didn't, and I'm so grateful for that. So we chose to do a medicated cycle. So we could do a natural or medicated. The natural, we would just do the one trigger shot and go ahead and transfer. Or we could put them on ice and we could do a medicated cycle and test them. And we decided, because of insurance money, truly, that we wanted to test all of our embryos to make sure we were giving everybody a good shot.
Yeah.
So they both came back normal. So again,
Wow.
we're like, this is wonderful. We didn't want to find out the gender because you can do that at that stage too. And we just went ahead and transferred the one really good embryo we had. And we were like,
Yeah.
again, I just like IUI, we're going to get pregnant on the very first try, like completely just,
Yeah. Well, especially, I mean, I think IUI is one thing, and then especially with IVF, you
yeah.
see that there's an embryo. Like that's already a whole step ahead. And then you see that it's like a genetically normal embryo. You're like, of course this is gonna work.
Right, like what could go wrong? So excited to be pregnant.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember my sister-in-law was living with us at the time because she also had just moved to Charlotte. And I couldn't wait for the blood test to make sure that I was pregnant. I promised myself I would wait 5 days after transfer, and I did. I woke up at like 3 a.m., didn't tell anybody.
Been
Um,
there, been
yeah,
there.
yeah. And
Like
tested
shaking in the bathroom, and it's like you got your flashlight on. Yeah, I know.
100%. And it came back positive. And so I immediately like ran into the bedroom and told my husband and ran to my sister-in-law's bedroom and was like, come on, come
Yeah,
on.
because for you, like that was your first positive experience after
Ever.
so much.
Yes. And I kind of wanted them to be like, yes, I see it too.
Right.
Because everybody is the line. Like you see lines where there are no lines. Like
Yes.
infertils are so good at finding lines when they don't
Well,
exist.
and especially probably only 5 days after transfer. It was probably not like a super dark line at that point.
Oh no, oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, it's there, I see it. My husband was like, okay, Kyla. But my sister-in-law, bless her, she was like,
Love
yes.
the girls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
girl. So we were so excited, and it was a genetically normal embryo, and so we were like, just planning life,
Yeah.
and just so excited for what the future held. And we didn't get any more or less scans than normal. We did get an ultrasound, obviously, at 6 weeks to graduate from the fertility and, the blood work and all of that. And so we went for our first appointment at, 10, 11, 12 weeks that you normally would for your OB. Everything was great. So there was no need for my husband, he felt, to go to our anatomy scan. And we happened to do our anatomy scan at 18 weeks. I'm impatient. Uh,
Me
so
too.
we went to our anatomy scan. It was just me and my mom ended up coming because at that point we could get you could have one guest.
Yeah.
But again, there was no reason for my husband to come. My mom was going to get the envelope with the gender. We were going to have our gender reveal a couple weeks later. Um, so we go to our anatomy scan, and I remember her name was Hannah, and I'll always remember her. And she was just very quiet. And we thought that was kind of odd, but again, we were just giddy and happy, and everything was wonderful and beautiful. And she gave us the pictures and she said, "You're going to go see the doctor." And I said, "Okay, this is a normal OB visit."
Yeah.
And
And
we
then
went to,
for those listeners, I mean, an anatomy scan can be up to an hour long. Like they're checking like everything. So that's a
yeah,
long time. Yeah.
it was very long. And again, she didn't make small talk. She didn't it was a very quiet room. And my mom and I tend to try to make jokes when we're uncomfortable. And so we're like trying to chat it up with her and she's just
Nah.
having it. So we go into the doctor and he kind of starts talking like we already know that
I'm just
there's
like holding
something.
my breath because like I know a little bit about this, but also I didn't realize like the timeline for you.
Yeah. And he like kind of starts talking like we know that there's something wrong with the baby. And I just remember being like, "I'm sorry, what?" And he was like, "Oh." Like it was like a very like and I remember there being a very awkward pause. Um, and my mom is sitting there just as confused as I am. Me, now I'm like, oh my God, where's my husband? And so he starts talking about how the spinal cord wasn't developing appropriately. There was a hole. But and bless his heart, he's a very Christian doctor, and I love that. Like he would pray at the beginning of and at the end of appointments. Like he's a very great guy. And he just kept saying but that doesn't mean there's something wrong. Like that doesn't mean something's happening. He was very reassuring that you're just going to go to see an MFM just to make sure everything's okay. And so we did. He sent us 2 days later, and that
I
should
was
have been,
literally like, hold on, I need the timeline time
I'm
frame
like,
here.
that should have been our first clue.
Yeah, so okay, so you go okay. So oh my gosh. So you did he tell you at the appointment or he's like go to MFM and you guys can get like further information there.
Yeah. He just said like it looks like there's he kept saying there's a spot on the spinal cord. And we were like, okay. And he said, buddy, it's 18 weeks. It could be nothing.
Right.
Okay. And so I remember getting in my car afterwards, and my mom looks like she's about to fall apart. And I was just like very stoic in the whole thing and got in my car and drove straight to wherever my husband was. Like I called him in the car and was like,
Yeah.
where? And he was at his sister's new house. And I was like, all right, great, I'm coming right there. And he was like, no, 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 just meet at the house. And I was like, no, I need to come to you. And he
Especially
didn't
because
have
that
questions.
scan, I mean, first of all, you're halfway through your pregnancy. Second of all, this is supposed to be like the best appointment ever, where you find out the gender of the baby, you kind of get that like sigh of relief, like, okay, everything's good.
Yes, and because it was IVF, because it was a genetically normal embryo, we had no expectation that something would ever go wrong.
Absolutely.
And so I remember just I saw him and just fell apart.
Yeah.
And we we ended up 2 days later, we went to the MFM and she confirmed that the baby had hydrocephalus, which there's like the brain is being pulled from the spinal stem, causing it to curve. And then also the spine never closed, the skin in the spine. So the spine was completely exposed to the amniotic fluid.
Mhm.
So I remember she told me that, and I instantly told her to get the F out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
get
Oh
out of
my
the room.
God. I mean, I have
You're
chills
like
right now.
I yelled at her, like told her she was lying.
Like,
Like
is she telling you, is this the doctor or the ultrasound tech?
this is the MFM.
The MFM
Um,
doc.
yes,
Oh
and
my
because I'm a teacher, they always ask, I always every time they ask if like med students can come in, I'm always like, yeah, 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 come in, come in. And so this poor med student, I remember like
I
looking at her in the
mean,
background and she's
come on. They should have not. So I work in healthcare too. They should have not had a med student in there.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
So anyway, my husband, bless his heart, he was like, can we just have a minute?
Yeah.
So they like, all leave, and I look at him and I'm like, what the heck? Like, no, like this can't be true. This can't be happening. What? And so we ended up, that was a terrible day, worst day ever. They immediately, the next day, sent us in for an amniocentesis. And my husband, so many like moving parts to this. My husband had just started a new job, and so he couldn't get off 2 days in a row. And
Mhm.
we didn't know kind of what was coming up after the MFM. And so my mom ended up coming with me the next day to the amniocentesis, which I had no idea were painful, by the way.
Yeah, and I mean that's where they're going. Are they going through your stomach or your cervix? I
Yeah, they go through to get the amniotic fluid. So they
Yes.
go through the stomach
Yeah.
uh, with a very long needle that was
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
um, and that is really honestly a blur. Like that part, I just remember it being really painful.
And that's more to like, well, this is so interesting. This is embarrassing to admit. I like work in MFM. We do amnios all the time. I'm not on the clinical side, but I guess I've like never, like, I hear that of that more so for like, if you have like a diagnostic testing and they're trying to get the amniotic fluid to see, was it pulled actually from the placenta or does the baby actually have it? So it's so interesting in your situation where like they could see on the ultrasound, but then they were
Mhm.
going to confirm via an amnio.
Yes. And I guess I don't even know why. I did
Yeah,
what they told me to.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's your first
Um,
pregnancy. Like you are just like, what do I do?
yeah. So we did the amnio. It confirmed everything. And so they sent us to a genetic counselor. And they gave us two choices was we had to make it to 24 weeks because the baby had to have surgery at 24 weeks and then they stitch you back up. And so they call it born twice. They take the baby out, they do surgery, and they put the baby back.
Whoa.
And that sounds terrifying. And then you're on bed rest for the rest of your pregnancy. And obviously have to have a C-section after that and our C-section for the rest of your
And it's
pregnancy.
and just to clarify, I mean, even the surgery, that's not like, oh, the baby's completely healthy and normal. Like there's still so many risks. And there's risk of losing the baby, I'm sure, during that.
Yes. And so that's what ended up happening. So we never made it to the 24 weeks to do the surgery. We ended up losing the baby at 21/4.
Oh my gosh,
And
I'm
so
so sorry.
that was we are so grateful for a lot of things. And so we had her, and we ended up like being in the maternity ward when we had her, and it was I remember I had my second panic attack ever leaving the maternity ward to go to the um, recovery room.
As
Uh,
you should have.
they
Excellent.
like they wheel you out and like all I have is this little box.
Oh,
And we had got her baptized. And so like we have like her little baptism outfit that the hospital gave us and the books and the footprints and all the things and like going to the recovery room and hearing all of the baby. Like it was uh, literally like that is the worst
I
moment.
can't imagine anything worse. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's
No.
horrific.
I actually ended up having a panic attack again when with my son when we wheeled down the
Well,
same
I bet.
like
Yeah.
because it's just so you're like you put yourself in that space again.
Yeah.
So and I think after a loss, everybody kind of goes two different directions, right? Like you are like, we got to take a pause. I'm not sure what to do with this, especially so late. I mean, we had
That's a
we
late
were
loss.
new and we were excited. We had like started to move stuff around. We had started to make a registry. Like this was just
Yeah.
such an exciting time. And for it to, within a matter of like 3 weeks,
Yeah.
just everything shatter, was wild. It was a wild ride. And I'm also so grateful that I ended up taking maternity leave through
Good
that.
for you. That's
Yep.
amazing.
I
Like,
think it's,
like that was supported. That's just amazing that that was supported by your job.
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. I took 10 weeks and just truly worked on myself. I went to therapy twice a day. I, woke up and drank coffee and just had slow mornings, started listening to like some devotionals, just really tried to work myself through it all.
I think if
Um,
anything, I mean, this podcast so far, your story's been incredible, but I feel like if anything, like that's the most important thing that you've shared so far for others of like a loss is a loss. And I mean, especially at 22 weeks, like you gave birth to this little girl, like take your postpartum, take your leave.
yes, and that's the thing. Like my hormones crashed, my milk came in.
Yeah.
Um, like you you have to pack up the stuff you bought.
Mm.
Um, and it's whether it was, you know, a 6 week loss or a 22-week loss, like you have to give yourself that space and that time to heal through it.
I can't
For
imagine
what's
being,
next.
yeah, and I can't imagine being a teacher too, like being like constantly around children or
I
kids.
know.
I don't know what grade you teach, but just like even
First.
having to stand up in front of people and talk.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was it. Like I knew I wasn't going to be a good, I mean, my kids knew I was pregnant because I was showing. And so
Of
just even having to
course.
I know having to go through and like face those kids, I couldn't. I needed time to figure out what to say, and how to be a person.
Yeah.
So did that. And that was tough. It was I think my husband, because he was starting a new job, he didn't get a super long time to heal and it truly was just a different experience for both of us, right?
Yep.
Um, so I wanted to try right away. Like I was like, we have this other embryo, like let's go ahead, let's do it. Like I want to, I so badly want to be pregnant and have this family and this baby and this dream
And
everybody
you're,
has.
yeah, you're already mindset. You already mindset like I'm a mom. I'm 20 some weeks into this. I'm halfway through. I was the same way as you. Like you said, you could go either way. Every time I had a loss, like that fire fueled me even harder to try again. I was like, I know I should wait, but like we have to go right now.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
you
it's
had
funny.
this other embryo.
Yes. Well, it's funny you say mother because I remember Mother's Day had come up.
Oh,
We lost her November 5th. It was 30 days before my 30th birthday. Because I remember on my 30th birthday, it was 30 days without her because when you lose a child, you count by hours and days
yeah.
and weeks and years, right?
Mm,
And so Mother's Day came up obviously in May, and it was such a hard transition of like, am I a mom? And I don't even remember who said it. It was probably my therapist at the time, but she said, if I negate calling myself a mother, then I'm negating her life. And I was like,
yeah.
that's so true. Like anytime, like you're a mom,
Yeah.
whether however early or late you lose your child, you're still a mother.
Yeah. I love that you touched on that. And it's so true.
Yes. Um, so we waited like 6 months after, and we did our doctor decided that because it was such a low grade embryo, that we should do another retrieval. And so at that point, kind of playing the insurance game, we went back on my insurance because we were out of money on his insurance
Yeah.
and he had jobs.
Yeah.
So we went on my insurance. And we did another retrieval. And so grateful, actually, my good friend who I was also teaching with, we were across the hall from each other. We did our retrieval 9 days apart.
Oh, that's so good to have the
Yeah.
support. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we went through the whole thing together. And that was such a cool experience for both of us. So that retrieval, again, we had high numbers at the beginning. They didn't go down super fast, but at the end, we ended up with 5 embryos.
Oh,
So that
wow.
was a great retrieval.
I still like can't even like you are like one of a few people I know that have had like a stillbirth that
Yeah.
has then gone into IVF. I just like again, and I think that is just like, oh my gosh, like the strength that it takes to do that is just I can't comprehend it. And I just wanted to point that out. Like that had to be really emotionally difficult to do.
I couldn't have done it without my husband. And I think that like there's a reason my husband's my husband. But there's a reason we were friends first too, because we
Yeah.
just know how each other works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so of those 5, obviously we decided to do genetic testing for sure this time. Even though we did it last time and everything was great. And one of them came back as abnormal. And so we had 4 embryos. We decided that time to still do a medicated transfer because we tested the embryos. So they were frozen while we did the genetic testing. The one came back. We did a transfer then just when school let out. So must have been like June. And we found out we were pregnant. My friend also found out she was pregnant 9 days later.
Great. That's amazing.
Yes, it was great. And we decided not to tell anybody that we were pregnant except our family until after that anatomy scan,
Oh, I'm
obviously.
sure. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm just going to assume that you transferred not the first CC embryo. It was like one from
No.
the
Yeah.
second. Okay.
Yep. Yep. And that one was a BC, I want to say. I remember our embryos this round, although we had five and four genetically normal, none of them held more than like a 33% chance at, because they grade them and then they give them a percentage chance of life, right?
Okay. I only
And
had one, so I think they
okay,
probably were just like, they're like, we don't want to tell you the percent. I
bless
never,
them, bless them.
yeah.
I remember they just weren't strong embryos,
Yeah.
is what we were told
Yeah.
or said. So anyway, we transferred and we didn't tell anybody, and then it came back as normal. And so our 20-week kind of, or about 20 weeks, I think we ended up being like 24 weeks pregnant, ended up being at the 1 year mark of when Sarah Grace, the baby we lost, her birthday.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
and so we decided to go to Disney World for her birthday because we wanted to be in the happiest place on earth, on the saddest day of our life.
Yeah.
Uh, so we did our reveal that we were pregnant at Disney World.
Oh,
Took like the pictures by the Cinderella Castle, and it was such an exciting time. We still didn't know if we were having a boy or a girl. Kind of anticipated a girl because we had had a girl last time.
yeah.
But then, fun fact, my mom ended up taking the ultrasound picture to a friend who told her what the sex was.
So she,
And so then we ended up finding out the gender.
oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. So you had the anatomy scan before Disney?
Yeah.
Okay, and your husband came that time.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. My husband came that time. Everything. We actually had the same ultrasound tech, Hannah,
Oh,
and we told her, and she was like, "Yeah, I remember you. That was the very first one I ever saw."
um,
And so I think, like, I actually always had her for the
yeah.
whole pregnancy, and she did remember us, which was sweet. I
Oh,
know it was again a very like full circle experience.
yeah. Wait, okay, so have you told us the gender? Did I miss that? Oh,
Sorry, no. So it was a boy. Um, so that was an experience because I had like all this guilt of being like, oh my gosh, I wanted a girl, but also like, wait, but this baby's healthy. Like, let's just be excited about that.
right, right.
So we decided to pay tribute to Sarah Grace through his name. Sarah Grace was an AB embryo, and so we wanted an AB name, and so we ended up naming him Abel.
Oh, I love
So
that.
AP. And that pregnancy was really tough. I had everything you could imagine. I had gestational diabetes, I had hypertension, I had to wear a heart monitor, like, like everything you could ever imagine went wrong.
Yeah.
My water ended up breaking at 37.1, and he was 5 pounds, 15 ounces, just the sweetest little thing. 14 ounces, sorry, 5 pounds, 14 ounces. Um, and just the sweetest little baby. He came out not crying,
Oh,
which was scary. And
yeah.
he had to have that CPAP thing.
Oh my gosh.
I know. He whined, and he is a whiner now, 2 years later. He just came out whining. And I ended up having preeclampsia. And so I had a hemorrhage, and had two blood transfusions the night that I gave birth.
Oh my gosh. We just talked about this last weekend. We haven't aired it yet, but it's like women with infertility should not have traumatic births or
Nope.
pregnancy. It's not
Mm-mm.
fair.
It
You're
sure isn't.
already so anxious.
Sure am. Especially like he came out not
Not
screaming. Like
crying. And that's
and
all you want. I feel like obviously any mom wants that. But like when you've gone through something that you've gone through, all you're waiting for is that
and
cry.
I will never forget that look. Like I looked at my husband and I was like, is he alive? Like that was my first like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like I
Yeah.
can't do this again kind of
Yeah.
situation. So he, did the transfusion, everything, blah, blah, blah. When he starts to turn like 8 months, We moved again. And I again think this is a great time to bring up IVF to my husband because we had like been actively trying much since we could pretty much
Girl,
at that 6 week.
you were like born to be a mom. 8 months?
Yes. I was
At
like,
18 months, I was like, I don't really know if I can do this again.
no, I was so gung ho about two under two. Because my husband and his sister are 18 months apart and they are like best friends for life.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and my sister and I are 8 years apart, and then my brother and I are 18 years apart. Like,
Yeah.
I never had a sibling. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So you were like, even after everything you've been through, you were still like, we're doing this.
Yeah, because like, yes. And for me, I always feel like it's just hard in the moment. Like everything passes.
Right.
And so, like at when I'm, 65 years old, I want my two kids to be super close. It
Right.
doesn't matter that it's hard right now.
Right.
So 8 months started to have a conversation with my husband of like, I think like, this isn't what should we do? Should we try letrozole again? Like, what do you think? And he's like, slow down, slow down. Like, it's gonna happen, relax.
Yeah. Okay, but you still have these other embryos. Granted, I know that they're not like the super highest grade, and so you were kind of like,
Yes. And I was like, let's just transfer it.
yeah.
And so we actually ended up having a meeting with our fertility doctor when he was 11 months. So just shy of a year. And she said that we could do a natural cycle. We because we already had them frozen, like it's
Already
yeah,
tested.
everything's good. We're good to go. So we 2 weeks before his first birthday would have been our transfer day. And we were like, that was a moment where I was like, wait a minute. Like, I don't know if I got the heebie-jeebies or like something, but I was like, can we just wait a month or two? Like, I know that I'm ready. I know we can do the trigger shot, but like, let's just relish in him being one.
Right. Yeah, right. Because especially if it was 2 weeks before, then it could have like completely clouded his birthday. Look at how far you've come. Your first IUI panic attack on the table to like having like the most insane story and be like, I'm gonna do it again.
I know, but I think that all contributes to the 10 weeks I took
Yeah,
to
that's
work
awesome.
on myself.
That's awesome.
Um,
And did
and
you find resolve during those 10 weeks or that comes later?
that comes later.
Okay.
So we waited, and we actually ended up transferring on my husband's birthday in February,
Mhm.
which was very sweet. And at that point, my son was 14 months. So I felt like a little bit better about like, okay, like we've moved beyond really making the whole first year about him and those sorts of things. So we did the transfer, and again, it worked. And this one I went into kind of a little less hopeful. A, because I knew it wasn't a strong embryo. B, there's no way we can be 3 for 3. Like,
Right.
just
Right.
statistic. And that's what I kept telling my husband is statistically speaking, this is impossible.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and that time we actually didn't even tell my parents we were pregnant. We were doing IVF. Like, we told nobody. It was just him and I, and we took like videos
Oh.
of the whole experience that we could share at the end. But again, like I think I was just so didn't have a lot of hope that I didn't want to tell people to let other people down.
And you'd been let down so many times before. Like, yeah.
Yes. And that's probably where that like hesitation came from, right? Of just like, I
Yeah.
think I need a minute to catch my breath because I'm just not feeling very good about this.
Yeah.
Um, but, it ended up working out great. We got pregnant. We were so excited. And this time we did know that it was a girl. We knew all the rest of our embryos were a girl.
Okay. Oh,
It,
wow.
I know, which is wild. We are very grateful that we had a boy next. Like we had Sarah Grace, then we had a boy because I didn't realize how hard it was to be pregnant with a girl after losing a girl.
Oh,
Um,
really? But like
yes,
mentally for you, like it was just,
yes.
okay, yeah.
Yes, it was just like that mental, like, okay, this is a different pregnancy, this is a different child, this is a different experience.
Yeah. That makes
And
sense.
especially, right? Like, even at the anatomy scan, I was like, okay, are you, I think I asked the ultrasound tech 10 times, like, are you sure there's nothing wrong? Are you sure you don't see anything? Um,
Right.
because it was just such a weird experience for me. I even ended up going off of Zoloft. I went like off of any medication I refused to take because I was just so
Right.
nervous that something would go wrong.
Right.
Um, so that, um, when I was pregnant, right when I got pregnant with her, so it was February, and then April is Infertility Awareness Week. And so that's kind of when I started to get involved with Resolve.
Isn't
And
that
so that
so interesting? Like when you're pregnant, you still get involved because like I know a lot of people think that the infertility journey ends when you become pregnant. But that's like a whole new chapter of like just pregnancy after loss. And like you said, the emotional toll. I mean, yeah, it's just every single day is a fight, I feel like emotionally. Like when you are pregnant after loss or even infertility, you're just like, can I really do this?
and that was kind of my thing. Like I always wanted to be like a person in the room who would tell you the truth, tell you the real things, and also like champion for the people, for those people. Because I feel
Yeah,
like there's just oftentimes, I mean, infertility is not something that I feel like is more prevalent now. It's just something that's more talked about now.
right.
And I think that that starts with people who just talk about it, right? And so, like, I wanted to be somebody who just talked about it.
Yeah.
Um, so that year was my first year with Resolve. And I ended up being the regional coordinator for like 8 different states. And so it was just that was coordinating the state captains, who were the people in charge of the constituents of the state who are going to talk to the legislation. So the biggest thing Resolve was talking about that year was insurance and
Okay.
getting insurance representation through for infertility, and then also the military because infertility is not covered by military insurance, which I found I didn't know that, and that was very interesting to me.
That
Uh,
is.
so got involved that way, and then ended up giving birth in her due date actually was November 5th, which was when Sarah Grace was born. Um, I know it's
Oh,
everything in our life is so full circle to her, and that's why I always say we're so grateful for her,
wait, that's
because we
so
wouldn't have done a retrieval when we did if we had given birth at 40 weeks.
right.
Right? Because we did a retrieval. I mean, we just wouldn't have done
Right,
it.
right. It just wouldn't have
We
worked
wouldn't,
out.
yeah,
And I
like we
think
wouldn't
those are
have,
such just like it for me, they're like God winks, but like
yes.
for yeah, like I looked back when my daughter was born September 29th. She's 2.5. And when I was like going back through the like when right the week before she was born, I was going back through like our journey and I saw a picture. I had a DNC for one of our pregnancies on September 29th, 2 years prior.
Yeah,
And it's just like, wait, what? And at the time, I didn't know she was going to be born September 29th. But then you like look back and you're like, wait, what?
I 100% think it's a God wink.
Yeah.
And I can't look at either my son or my daughter without being grateful for her.
Yeah,
Um, so
exactly. Exactly.
that was a great that we were grateful. Ended up going into labor early. Could have been cool if they would have shared a birthday, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Close enough.
but she needed yeah. So I had my daughter, and now we have, we have 3 embryos technically. We have one from the first round and 2 from the other round. And we are probably done. Um,
Yep.
but one thing that I want to make sure of is that my work with the infertility doesn't stop. Because what I found a lot of times through volunteering with Resolve, and doing like Charlotte has they do their own walk of hope every year at the baseball stadium.
Ooh, you'll have to
And
give us
just,
information on that. We would
it's
love
so
to do
fun.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so Resolve allows you to do like your own DIY walks wherever you want. And so there's a woman
Cool.
in Charlotte who does theirs, and it's at the baseball stadium, and you just like walk around the track, and you walk around 7 times for the 1 in 7 women. Um, well, it's 1 in 6 point something, so we do
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's a great um, so one thing I want to make sure is that a lot of times in Resolve meetings with on Infertility Awareness Day, and even at a lot of these walks, it's a lot of people in the medical field. And I love that, right? Like we need people in the medical field to educate and to share the experiences and things like that. But we also need just like the regular teacher people,
Yeah,
like just the
yeah.
regular everyday Joe,
The ones that are the end
to
user
go out.
affected by the laws and what the physicians are doing. Yeah, for sure.
And that is kind of, yes, and that's kind of my driving force to continue working with Resolve, even though our family building is over. Probably, I would say probably because you just never know what the future holds.
You never know.
But you just don't. But I still want to make sure that those people are getting a voice and those people are know that it's not. I feel like when you're in a room of just people in the healthcare field, you're like, oh, but that won't happen to me. And I feel like that's kind of how we work throughout our journey is, well, that won't happen to me. That's just something that happens to other people or that hospital workers talk about, but it doesn't happen.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing your story, number one. And number two, just sharing the work you do with Resolve. So if people want to get involved with Resolve, I know we get like the email, we're like on the email distribution list. Is it resolve.org? Is that the website?
Yes.
I feel like I
Um,
just pulled that out of my memory. So I should probably check it. Resolve.org. I think that's actually right. It is right. Wow.
Yeah, pretty sure it is.
It is.
And once you sign up for like Infertility Awareness Week, and you choose, if you choose to be a part of those meetings, then it's literally just a 30 minutes, maybe twice during that day. So you can, I mean, I'm a teacher, and so I would just get coverage during the day quickly to just go to a meeting.
Yeah, like I
Um,
see it like the fundraiser Walk of Hope, and then they have
yes,
support groups. And again, I know we get like their like maybe like bi-weekly or monthly email, just kind of like updating you what's going on. It's such a good resource. And then their Instagram is just resolve.org. They got a good
yes.
one, just resolve.org. Well, what is the best way to contact you if people want to reach out that maybe have had a similar walk of yours? Want to touch on anything like additional? Are you comfortable with them reaching out to you on social?
Yeah, absolutely. My Instagram is Kyla M Ayalew, which is like such a name,
We'll
right?
put it in the show
Um,
notes. I'll put it in the show notes if somebody needs to find you.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to share with listeners? I think what you're doing is incredible. Thank you for being an advocate. Thank you for coming on and spending your Saturday morning sharing like some really raw and emotional details of your story. I know that you're living mom life and you got two under two and it's great, but still everything that you've been through is so just insane, really. There's not a better word for that.
And we're grateful for the experience. Honestly, we're grateful we went through everything that we did because it led us to where we are. So I hope that that's what listeners take away from this is, wherever you are now doesn't mean it's where you're going to be. And you can just, keep fighting through it. We can get through it together.
Thank you so much.
Premiumbeat.com